Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to the Man That Can Project with Lachlan Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to the Man That Can Project.
Gents, welcome to the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan Stuart, and today it's Thursday. And it is a bloody brilliant week. There is so much happening. We have 98 blokes registered for the 3-day online masterclass, which is kicking off on Monday the 6th. So 4 days away, right? It's not that far away. So 2 spots left, which is pretty bloody cool to see all of those blokes who have taken the time to register. And I know that a lot of you are going to have a life-changing experience. The fact that we've got so many blokes, and it's the first time I've ever done a free 3-day masterclass. The last year we did the Set Your Year Up for Success webinar, which was also obviously a success, but this one I am super stoked about. So for all of you legends who have gotten ready to jump in on this one, I'm excited for you. It's going to be bloody brilliant. Now make sure you do think about what your intention is for attending this masterclass, what you want to get out of it. Write down any questions you have that are based around the what we'll be covering over the 3 days, which you'll have in your emails. I'll also send a recap email on the Sunday, but just make sure the more you prep for this and the more intentional you are for this, the more you will get out of this. So I'm excited for that. And obviously last week we had the biggest download week of the podcast ever since 2017, since this podcast has been going. It was the biggest download week, and to be honest, it was a surprise. I was stoked when I checked the stats. I got the email stats on Monday. I was blown away, but yeah, I was definitely blown away because we'd had 2 lower weeks prior to that. So who knows? Everyone's catching up, or more people are catching on to how good the podcast is and the incredible guests that we have today, gents. Want to talk about money, right? Within our Strong Men of Value, the program, every Friday we have a call, right? And the purpose of that call is accountability to check how everyone is going within their 12-week game plans, right? So our game plan is us breaking our goals down into 12-week goals, right? So we can work out what we want to move towards, and we track that. We set daily intentions, we set weekly intentions, and we set monthly and obviously quarterly intentions to move forward to that. And by checking in and recapping weekly, you can really find out what's working well for you. You can see if you're falling off track or if you're veering off track, and you can, put a plan in place to get back on track and get back toward achieving what it is that you want to achieve. And obviously then over a 12-week period, you either achieve it or you don't. And then you've got feedback from what you've filled out and what the action that you've taken that can really help you for the next 12 weeks, right? I think it's very, very important. When one thing that I am a big believer in, a lot of people set a goal, but they've really got to learn how to set a goal and stick to a goal before they actually should even think about achieving it, in my opinion, because life's so fucking busy. I think it's very rare that someone sets a goal and has everything in place or has the right support, all of that sort of stuff to achieve it. A lot of our guys achieve it because of this, right? We have the right environment, right? We have supportive guys who are successful in various areas of life, right? So they can ask questions and get mentorship from that. They are actually being intentional with setting a goal and taking action towards, being intentional with what they need to do daily that's going to help them move towards that goal, right? And obviously, if at the end of the day you don't tick that off, you haven't done the action, then you need to modify your goal, right? And that's what we allow the gents to do. And it's pretty powerful to see what's happening there. So I think for anyone out there, whether you're a part of the Strong Men of Value or not, right? And I'm going to talk about money, which is where we're going, because I went off on a tangent as to where this question came from, but it came from one of our members around money. And this guy, Spence, who responded, he's like, mate, I've listened to that much Gary Vee, and the response that you gave was just so much better than anything he's ever said. And I was like, well, start calling me Gary Vee then, right? Because I'm delivering the goods. So I know you guys will get a heap of value from this. If you are listening to it, make sure you have a pen and a notepad. For those who are already in the Strong Men of Value, I've written this out. I've posted it out. So you can go back and refer to the questions there. For those who aren't a member of it, just grab a pen and paper and you'll be able to write them down. You know, if I speak too quickly, pause and hit back that 15-second back button and crack back into it. But yeah, within the game plans, moving forward, part of the accountability before we do an educational piece and break the men up into their accountability groups where they get to network with other members is I asked the gents, what's one question? They put this at the end of their weekly when they set up what they want to achieve for the week. There's 3 things that they're intentional for, what they want to achieve for the week, and 3 things that they did really well last week, right? And one of the questions one of the gents had was, how do I make $150,000 without having to work 60 hours a week? And, when I asked him, obviously, people don't think about the numbers, but I got the general gist of the question and we discussed that. And we went through a bit of a process, and I want to share that with you guys. And just before we dive into this process, one thing to be mindful of, and this is my views, right? And you may have different views, and obviously it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing with you what's helped me increase my income and increase my hourly rate and help me across that, going from someone who was earning, $20, $22.50 an hour. That's Australian dollars for everyone in Canada and that who's like, wow, he's banking it. So that's from this perspective. So obviously I would highly recommend, some great resources that I listen to, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Robert Kiyosaki is a great place to start. There's some things that I disagree with him, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a great one. I'm just looking at my bookcase over here. He's got another one and I just can't off the top of my head remember it. The Intelligent Investors, another good book for that. So Corporation, not that one. I can't even find the book. Anyway, there's a few good money books out there. Barefoot Investor for those who are in Australia, another good one. The 16% Solution is a great one. I really want to find that book for you. Thought it was over there. Anyway, I will talk about that book in another podcast, I'm sure, because it's a really, really, I actually enjoyed it more than Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've got that many books. My eyes are like, Jesus, mate, how can we find this book? Anyway, I can't see it off the top of my head. So you're not going to get the treats there. Think and Grow Rich is also another one. It's obviously not specific tips, but it's a good general gist about money and creating wealth. So also another great read. But there are a few good books that have helped me. And obviously I listen to podcasts on money. I'm very fortunate to have clients who are very good with money. So I get to network and pick their brains as well. So I think it's an important thing to talk about is money. But I'm just going to jump back to the page where all my notes are so I don't ramble much longer. But gents, what I want you to think about, right? Obviously, whether your number is 150,000, it's $1 million, it's 100,000, it's 60,000, whatever it is, it has to be your number. I think the biggest challenge all of us face is dealing with comparison and expectation. Now, my belief is that we can't have everything straight away, but we can have. I do believe in the long run we can create our dream life. Like, what I mean by that is there has to be sacrifice, and within sacrifice means, for example, if you're wanting to increase your wealth, increase your hourly rate, or anything like that, things that you need to do there require time and they require sacrifice. So if I look back to when I first decided that I wanted to increase my income and increase my hourly rate, etc., or just create more wealth for myself, what I did at that point in time was I obviously looked at starting a business and all the skills that I had to learn with that. But it was also investing in programs and courses, and just the time I needed to put into things to understand how to run a business, to deal with the setbacks, networking, all of these sorts of things. So back in the day, guys, when I first started, I was from 5 a.m. till roughly 11, I won't say 11 all the time, but let's say anywhere between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. I was working, like nonstop working. I sacrificed gym. And if you see photos of me, I had a rank ass beard and I was skinny as all buggery. But I was so hungry to understand money. I was so hungry to upskill and find ways that I could be more valuable to earn more money that I made sacrifices. I sacrificed a lot with my relationship. Like Amy understood, I rarely drank and I rarely ate bad foods. I really struggled to spend a lot of time with her because my main focus was that. Right. So in the short term, this was about a 3 to 4 year period. It was what I would say out of balance for where I wanted to be in the long term, but I felt I really needed to do that in order to gain the knowledge, to gain some experience, to get to where I wanted to then free up more time. Because now that I earn more money, it affords me more time to then spend in my relationship, to spend on my health, to also spend on my business, and various other things in my life. So I ultimately believe the same with other things. Another example could be, someone who has done that, or someone who's recently got married, or having children, right? Like your children may become a priority, and sacrifices that you may make around that might be sleep, right? I will say that. I know a lot of dudes lose their sleep, but also your physical health, right? It might be a sacrifice. And while in the long term, that's not ideal, that just might be what's happening for you. That's your current reality, right? So the short-term sacrifice of being a present parent, learning how to parent, dealing with the lack of sleep and trying to just, do your day job and everything else may require you to miss that. And that's obviously a choice. But in the short term, it's not ideal. Or for me, it wouldn't be ideal, but I understand that it may well happen. But in the long term, I'm like, fuck, right, I want to be a good parent. I want to understand that. I want to be available. I still want to have my business, but in the long term, I still want to have really good health, because your health is your wealth. So how do I then get back on track? So there's a short-term sacrifice of learning to parent, spending time there, etc., where I know I'm coming back to health eventually, if that makes sense, Jen. So that's why I'm saying in the short term, you have to, sacrifice certain things in your life to gain the knowledge, spend the time, and build the expertise and skills to become better in that area. Because the better that we become in an area, gents, remember this, the better that you become in an area, the compound effect starts to happen and you become more efficient with things, or you might have ways to outsource things, right? And think about this. If you're more efficient in something, it won't take you as long to do, right? So for me, right, doing a podcast, when I first started the podcast, it took me hours messing around with it, learning how to publish it, edit it, do the videos, do the socials, record it, do all of that sort of stuff. It took me hours, right? But over time, I've become more efficient with it, and I've created a process and systems that allow me to, record one, and within 30 minutes after, it's all good to go with all the text, copy, everything, transcription, everything, right? So understand that, which has now afforded me more time. So when I normally schedule out 2.5 hours for a podcast, I might need that full 2.5 hours, which then, say, for example, I get it done in 90 minutes. I've now afforded myself another hour to read, or to spend with Amy, or to do various other things. So can you see how that short-term sacrifice of upskilling, and short-term, I'm not saying like a week or whatever, it might be a couple of years, but in the grand scheme of life, it's short-term. But it affords you that time. So we need to think about what those sacrifices are. But let's go back to money. Obviously, in the short term, I believe you can't have everything at once, because you do need the sacrifices to learn, upskill, problem solve. But in the long term, I believe, when you have enough money, and, for me, I'm striving towards having those passive things which are paying me, and also having a very nice cash flow business that will then, and I'll have staff and all of that sort of jazz, which I already have a bit happening, is then I'll be able to afford the time to then spend with my family, which is a goal, to then travel more, work on my health, continue to work on myself, and have other experiences. So that for me was always, since 2014, getting my finances under control, and really my emotions. They were the first two things that I was like, I need to invest heavily in the short term in my mental and emotional health and understanding how I think, because, that's been the big downfall of me with my emotions, my jealousy, anger, and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to uncover that. I wanted to understand that, but also money. I sucked with money. I didn't understand money, and I didn't make much money. So I thought for myself, if I can really tick those off, they're going to allow me the time and space and mental awareness or emotional awareness to then really dive deep in being a better mate, looking after my health more, being a better husband, partner. I'm a husband soon, so let's say a fiance at the moment, a son, all of those things in the future. So that's what worked really well for me, guys. And that's my way of thinking. But ultimately, I want you to take ownership for what you feel is going to add the most value to you in your current life. It might be health for where you're at. You might be in a different financial position or whatever. So think about it for you guys. But anyway, short-term sacrifices for long-term game. In the long term, you can have it all if you put the fucking time in, working. Back to money. So increase your hourly rate. What does this look like? So obviously working more hours was originally how I thought I could earn more money, when I had the time for money mindset, right? And if that's a position you're in at the moment and it's the only way you can earn money, then that's fine. That might be what you need to do. That might be the box that you need to tick. One thing that I really want you to be mindful of is that number that you need. And I've spoken about it on podcasts before, where we have that baseline number, which is the amount of money that we need to earn that will allow us to stay fed, sheltered, and clothed. Okay. And then we have the number, which for everything else is luxuries, right? Like, buying nice clothes, going on holidays, going out to dinner, various things like that. And so everything above that baseline, really, in my opinion, is a choice. You're choosing to put that financial pressure on yourself if you're in the struggle street of living that kind of life. That's where we need to look and go, am I spending more than I'm earning, right? Which is what most people are fucking doing. Reel it in, son. Reel in the bloody spending. Understand your numbers and see what's happening, right? For those who, I use Xero, which is an accounting software, which is game changing, but there is also an app which Sam Hardy, who's been on the podcast, has talked about. Just go back and listen to Sam Hardy's episode. I'm just trying to see it here in my productivity and finance tab, because it is a really good app as well. It tracks everything here. I do have it here. Pocketbook's what it's called. So you can actually link your bank accounts up, and it'll tell you where you're spending your money, how much you're spending roughly a week, all that sort of stuff. So it helps with budgeting. Check out Pocketbook. But obviously, the goal of increasing your wealth can come through hourly rate. And if you break it down by hours, like I still consider myself working out by an hourly rate. I do have a property. I do have some investments in cryptocurrency, etc., which for me is a long-term play. And the intention and goal behind that is to be getting some returns over, I'm not even worried about those for the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years. It's not really a worry for me at the moment. I'm trying to earn as much money and get as much cash flow going so that I can invest in things that I'm, investing time in to invest in. So like, I won't invest money in things that I don't understand. And, there's like I said, that really good book, The 16% Solution. Awesome book to sort of get you thinking about how you can make your money work for you. So I'm going off on a few tangents, but bear with me. I do have them, and Dot pointed out, so it does flow. But obviously, working more hours isn't the only way. For you currently, you might be earning whatever your hourly rate is. But I want you to first thing to think about is, how much would you like to earn per year and why? And don't just go to the $1 million number, because I'll tell you that if you were to think about some things that you really want in your life, like it might be purchasing a house, it might be holidays per year, it might be your overheads for the week in terms of eating out for dinner, buying friends gifts, doing various things like that. Like if you were to work that out, right, it might be, at the end of the day, it might be $7,000 a week, or whatever it might be. It might be $3,000, might be $1,500 a week, whatever that number. Sorry, just a little burp there. Whatever that number is, it needs to be your number. Yes, you will be challenged with comparison and expectation. that is always going to happen. Your mate might say, fuck, I just earned this much this week, or I just bought this, or we just are renting this, or we weren't going on this holiday, and it makes you go, I'm not doing enough. I'm not earning enough. That's always going to happen. But what I want you to focus on is what you really want and why it's important to you from that number point of view. So whether it's 100,000 or whatever it is, think about it and stick to it. And obviously allow it to change if it does. But for the short term, while we're working these things out and getting you to achieve that goal, just stick to that number until you do. And then you might reach threshold and go, look, I'm content. Or you might go, fuck, I want more, man. I want more of this money. Right? The next thing I want you to think about. So first question was, how much would you like to earn per year and why? Okay. And obviously, if you think about that, how many hours per week would you like to work and weeks per year? So let's say, for example, for me, I work, 8 to 10 hours a day. But let's say, you want to work 40 hours a week, right? And you want to have 4 to or 8 weeks holiday, whatever it is. How many weeks holiday do you want? For me, let's say, for example, I'll just use a generic one. I'll get my calculator out here as well so I can give you some numbers to understand how this works. But how many hours would you like to work? Let's say your number for what you would like to earn per year was $100,000, right? Let's divide, you want to do work 48 weeks of the year. So you're happy to work 48 weeks a year. So have 4 weeks holiday. Let's divide your 100,000 divided by 48, which means you need to earn $2,083.33 recurring for those 48 weeks of the year. Now, if you divide that 2,000 by, what did I say, 40 hours a week, or whatever the number is for hours you want to work per week, it's $52 an hour. I'm showing my phone to the screen there, but $52 an hour. Now, the cool thing about this is this, gents. If you're earning above it, you're crushing your goals, right? You're awesome. Right, you're flying. You might be still working more hours. So then it's just coming back to a discipline thing to say, look, I don't need to work that. And I'm choosing to say no because I'm already achieving my goals, right? Or if you want to keep building more, you might change your goal. Secondly, you might be earning below that, right? So say, for example, you're earning $20 an hour and the goal for you to achieve your income in the amount of hours per week with the amount of holidays that you want per year is there's a $32 growth, right, in which you need to improve in your hours. Does that make sense? So what you then need to start thinking about and changing your way of thinking is, how can I add $32 to my hour, right? Which essentially $32 to your hour can come through various things, right? Some people might look at going to a higher paying job. They might look for that salary increase. There's other people who are starting side hustles, right? And there's so many, like I truly believe in this day and age, like with technology and everything that's going on around the world, freelancing and podcasting and people upskilling with services, I think it's brilliant to get a little top up. It might be that you earn your $52 per hour from your side hustle. It might just be that you get that top up, that $32 top up from that business. So therefore, collectively between your full-time job and your side hustle, you're hitting that hourly rate, if that makes sense. Yes, in the start of starting a high side hustle, you're going to work more. But once again, we're thinking about the long term. What does that do? So what is required? I'm just checking. So your annual dollar goal versus weekly income, covered all that. So think about your current hourly rate and the gap between that is required. And then how do you fill it? So do you start a side hustle? Do you want to find a higher paying job, or look at some various other things, guys? But that's up to you. And I highly recommend thinking about this now, because I see so many people who they're like, man, my life's fucking awesome. So good. I'm living the dream. And then they have a family or an emergency happens. And they're like all of a sudden panicking because they don't have the skills and the resources. So I think it's definitely something to talk about. And gents, we discuss this kind of stuff in the Strong Men of Value. So if you want to be a part of those conversations and network with blokes doing that, this is a little plug for that. Get your ass in there. And the next step would be, who do you know who is currently earning that or has the skill that you might like to learn in order to increase your wage? So like, for example, say, for example, you're awesome at talking and you've got something that you love talking about and you want to start a podcast. Who do you know who's currently running a good podcast? You're probably looking at him or listening to it. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't come to me in terms of monetizing a podcast because I don't monetize this. We get awesome downloads, but I don't monetize it. So probably not your guy there. Or it might be, one thing my mum's doing at the moment is starting a pot business. I think that's fucking awesome. She's painting pots and going to the markets and doing incredible things like that. So I'm sending her Instagram account. She's obviously hanging out with people who do the similar things. And I think that's awesome because you're going to be able to fast track those skills, right? And you're going to be able to see what's trending, what's working well, pricing, how to sell them, all that sort of stuff, how to set them up at the markets, various stuff like that. So who do you know who is currently earning that or has that skill? Finally, what skills do you need to learn in order to make that a reality? So, like I said, for me, when I started business, I thought I was going to make $1 million in a year. Didn't do it, much to my disgust. But I learned a heap of skills that have made me more money than I ever thought I really would have earned as a result of that. I learned sales, I've learned marketing, I've learned copywriting, I've learned how to host a podcast, how to communicate better, I've learned how to lead, understanding money, reading better, just various skills that have really helped me make that a reality. And obviously just even probably the most important one, which is what this 3-day masterclass is going to be on, which is how to make you a strong man of value, right? Certain in your own ability, confident, and give you direction to chase what it is that you want. So I think, there's some really important things. And I know it may seem overwhelming. And if it does, just break it down, guys. Spend time going, okay, let's push this out and make it a 3 to 5 year play or even 10-year play. What's the first thing that I need to do in order to get this going? It might be having a conversation with me. It might be jumping in our program and networking with blokes who are doing those sorts of things. Or alternatively, it might be picking up books like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was about to say Strong Man of Value, don't have a book on that. Building an Empire, Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game, various books like that. So I'll give you a quick recap, guys, and then I'm out of here. If you got value from this podcast as well, please share it with a mate. Reach out to me. Share it on socials. I love it when people share it on socials and tag me. That's fucking badass. Point 1, how much would you like to earn per year and why? Point 2, how many hours per week would you like to work and weeks per year? So how many weeks holiday do you want? What is your required hourly rate? Right. So I taught you how to do that earlier. And what is your current hourly rate? And what's the gap between what you're currently earning and what you want to earn? It might be $4. It might be $20. It might be $100. Who knows, right? You got to make sure it's a realistic gap for starters. Otherwise, it can be too overwhelming to take action on. Work out how you can fill that gap, how you can bridge that gap, right? In terms of increasing your income from where it is now to where it needs to be. Who do you know who is currently earning that amount of money that you want to earn, or who has the skills that you need to learn? And obviously 7 was, what skills do you need to learn in order to make it a reality? So I hope that's helpful for you, gents. It was definitely helpful for me, and it was a good discussion we had with the gents in the Strong Men of Value program on our weekly call. But I look forward to obviously connecting with more of you. We have the free Facebook group. I'm always available on socials. I'm actually getting inundated with messages, so I'm a bit slower to respond, or you can just jump in the program or just jump on the 3-day fucking masterclass. There's 2 spots left. So probably by the time you finish this, they're gone anyway. But thank you guys for tuning in. I look forward to dropping another wicked episode on Monday. We've got Matt Zerker coming out this Monday, which is a fucking wicked episode. He was joining us from overseas and we had a good yarn. So tune in for that one. And until then, have an amazing weekend, gentlemen. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.